Welcome back to Morning Express. And well, it is now time for us to look at the dailies. And joining me to do that, we have Karen Wakoli, who is from Emerging Leaders. Good morning, CEO of Emerging Leaders. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We also have Eliud Ngugi, who is an advocate. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
So we'll go straight to the dailies, and starting off with the headlines here. On the Standard this morning, we have why firms find diploma holders more attractive. And according to a study by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, there is a shortage of skilled technical workers in the job market. Karen, let me start with you. And as a CEO, would you agree with this, that the fact that possibly you find people who have diplomas more practical than maybe those who have degrees?
Absolutely true. To a larger extent, it's absolutely true, because I think there's such a huge gap between what is taught and what is expected in the market and what the market needs.
What the market needs practically.
Yeah, because sometimes you find you're interviewing for a job position, somebody has a degree or even a master's degree, but then even they can't properly write a cover letter or even a CV, or they can't communicate coherently. You know, that's an inherent challenge. And I think there's been such a huge upsurge of universities, enrollment in universities, than in technical institutions. And I think what we need right now is more technical capacity.
And that's the thing. There was somebody who was actually arguing that Kenya has way too many universities at the moment, which there was a mushrooming at some point. And Eliud, I don't know your thoughts on this and your experience as to whether it has really helped our job market by having so many people who are educated. And this education is questionable because you have the papers, you have the degrees, but are you able to put those degrees into practical use once you leave the universities?
I concur with her, but mostly I want to look at the technical training. Are we hands-on when we clear from the university? Are we able to actually offer other skills apart from the white-collar jobs kind of skills to actually assist in the job market? Because we have, let's say we have enough lawyers, we have enough doctors, we have engineers, but then what happens to the plumbers? What happens to guys who have a technical skill to actually assist these lawyers and the plumbers and the engineers who need actually these technical skills to actually help them? And so I feel like our education system has gone wrong because our focus is more on the money rather than the skill and being able to give back to the community. And so that's what may be influencing why this. Yes.
Okay.
And in addition, you realize there's a gap in terms of critical thinking skills, because what happens a lot of times is you're given notes and you just regurgitate.
Right.
There's no questioning, asking questions. I think would go really far if we had an education system where people are encouraged to ask questions and not just take notes and regurgitate that.
And is that down to the education system? Is it the style of teaching? Is it the syllabuses that we have? Because we've done this education system thing for a while. I mean, we started with the 763 system, went to 844. We are now changing from 844, and we still not seem to be getting it right.
I have no idea what the problem really is.
Eliud, your thoughts?
I feel that our system is a problem.
But then again, as we argue our system is a problem, you're products of the same system.
We are the products of the same systems, but you find out that depending on how well skilled you are, that you are able to grasp and to go an extra mile and not just cram. Those who just crammed end up not being productive in the work market, and so our system probably does not give emphasis to the artistic aspects of our talents and the talents also. Okay. And so we have we churn out graduates who, well, they are good on the papers,
they're good with their grades.
With their grades and all that, but when it comes to, for example, I am able to do things with my hands, I'm able to run, I'm a sporty individual. We fail to actually see the need to actually emphasize that in our education system. Right. And so we are wasting so much by just focusing on the academics. And I believe that's what the new system, education system that has just been introduced is all about, to ensure that we emphasize on other areas.
Okay, and I guess, there's an article I was reading and they were saying that if you still think in terms of finishing your college, going to university, then getting a job, then you're definitely very old in terms of your thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Because we need to develop our skills and other things. And I guess that brings us to page 3, which I would like us to look at. And this is to do with the Moipei quartet, or the trio who have graduated. But this is now a very interesting blend, because for them, they've definitely honed their artistic side, their musical side, which they're famous for, but have gone ahead and now graduated, and they became the first ever Kenyans to sing in the US national anthem at the NBA League game. So definitely seeing results of enhancing an artistic skill. Karen.
Oh, yeah. I think there's so much power in talent. And when parents can be able to just nurture and groom talent in their kids, discover it, nurture it, I think it's something really, really powerful. So I'm really happy for these girls. And I've seen some of the international schools focusing more on the artistic, talented side of students than just sciences, mathematics, or languages, or whatever it is. They find the talent within the person and then groom that talent, hone it, which I think there's so much power in.
There's power in that.
Yeah.
Eliud, I guess that validates what you're saying, that we concentrate a lot on the academics and forget other skills that children may have.
Yeah, emphasis on that. And I believe more parents should look at the artistic and the talent in their kids. Start emphasizing on how to actually ensure that they become the best from an early age. If a child is good with, let's say, the music, let them enroll in a music school. Let them play an instrument from an early age. And because musicians are making so much money compared to the white-collar jobs that we have out here. And also, the athletes, when, for example, we run outside this country, they make us, first of all, proud as Kenyans. And number 2, they are making a living out of it. And so let's not just focus on the white collar. Let's also focus on the talents and other skills.
Absolutely. And I think gone are the days when it was all about money. There needs to be a bit more fulfillment to life than just earning a handsome salary, because at the end of the day, we've seen people who earn a lot of money and still don't do much with it, and live a very dissatisfied life. So I think there's more to earning and having a career than just earning a lot of money. But let's move on to other matters talking about money, and this is to do with the IEBC. This is on page 4 of the Standard today. 3 former IEBC chiefs deny earning perks after resigning. So again, emerging leaders, I don't know whether these are things that you're looking at in terms of governance and just best practice. Now, according to the chair, Wafula Chebukati, the 3 commissioners who resigned were still earning a salary. According to them, they say no, they resigned in the right way and wrote a letter to the president, which is the way they're supposed to do it by law. But it seems like they may still be earning. So I don't know, your thoughts on this, Karen?
If that is true, then that is really, really sad. But then it goes to the bigger question about the values. Because this is happening at the IEBC, for instance. There's a lot more also happening at various sectors in society. Basically corruption, we talked about it earlier. And if you flip through the papers, you'll see more of that. And I think that's why there was a study the other day, I don't know whether it was by Aga Khan Foundation or by Strathmore University, that said that 1 out of every 4 young people want to leave Kenya and go find some other place to...
A job elsewhere. Yeah,
exactly. So this could be part of the things, because you're working hard, you're honing your skills, building your skills, and hoping that there's going to be meritocracy. But then you find other things happening. Now, for instance, if they resigned and they're still earning, that is so wrong.
Somebody's being dishonest right there.
Exactly.
Because then that's not a resignation. Eliud, you're a lawyer, you're an advocate, and looking at this, are we living in a country where we've become so legalistic that we want to have the letter of the law implemented, yet we do not have the spirit of the law? Because one would imagine, if we use this as an example, if I said I am resigning, by principle, I am saying I am leaving everything to do with that job, relating to that job, from the work that I have to do to the salary that I earn. Is legally, they could have resigned verbally, but maybe have not done what needs to be done such that the salary is still coming in, which would sound dishonest to some extent.
It is dishonest, and on whether we have become a very legalistic country, these are some of the effects of a new constitution that has ensured that any of us can actually go to court and actually seek for legal redress in case of anything, or even address the court. And that's why we have umtata in court. And so the most amazing thing is the fact that one, we've had a very electioneering year, that is 2017, where every Kenyan got to go through their constitution and understand a few articles of the constitution. And that is something to be commended about the new constitution. But when it comes to the employees, IEBC, then it's dishonest of any employee to actually resign, put it down on paper,
resign in quotes.
Yes, and continue taking in a salary at the end of the day. And so that's very unfair for the IBC former commissioners.
Okay,
yes.
And we'll wait and see how that goes. Umtata, as usual, is there to represent Kenyans, I guess, and see how that is going to go. Another story that is drawing attention is on page 5 of the Standard. PS denies losing 8 billion to fraud in NYS deals. You've just talked about, corruption, and there seems NYS again is on the front page, or rather on the news, and we know that we still do not have answers as to what happened to the other monies from NYS. But Karen, again, looking at values and as a country, how are we going to slay this dragon of corruption? Some have said it's not even corruption, it's just theft.
Yeah, it's outright theft. But the unfortunate thing is that we are not seeing people involved in corrupt deals facing the law and actually going to jail. I think we need many, many more people to go to jail for us to actually realize, oh, there's actually consequence when I do something wrong. Now, NYS in itself is such a noble idea. I have been to countries such as Botswana, Egypt, Norway, and a few other countries where I have seen they are sort of the NYS projects or programs running so well and empowering young people. Right now, there's the whole question in Kenya about joblessness and unemployment. This is such a great opportunity for young Kenyans to benefit in the long term. And every election year, again, politicians keep saying, oh, we want to create jobs for young people, or unemployment, sort it out, whatever. This is a great opportunity, yet over the years, money has just been disappearing. So young people are not getting empowered. Politicians are saying, oh, we want to empower young people. So I think we really need to rethink not just our system, but then taking action to properly plan for projects and implement them to the latter, if we are to sort out any of the problems we're facing right now.
All right. And Eliud, as you bring in your comments, it's also the headline for The Nation, where we have how 9 billion just walked out of NYS. I mean, in Kenya now we talk about billions, not just, hundreds of thousands and millions. We're in billions. But there you go. Your thoughts on this particular story on NYS?
Actually, to bring the viewers up to speed, this is now 9 billion shillings. And back in 2016, what led to the stepping down of office of the Kirinyaga County Governor was 279 million shillings. And now we are talking about, I don't know how many times that amount of money. And it's unfortunate that, according to the reports in the newspapers, that individuals working in those offices at NYS went ahead to create companies that were paid beforehand, before the companies that had already supplied. And those which had supplied, there are reports that they ended up having to answer some letters, yet they had done the supply. And there was nothing, we do not deny that there were supplies made to NYS. And so it's unfortunate that we have a loss of 9 billion shillings, and even more because we figure, alleged loss of 9 billion shillings. And some reports say it's even to a tune of 10.2 billion shillings. And so it's unfortunate that we can have that kind of corruption in this country. And we need to see the judicial system and the prosecution office having a new DPP take serious legal action, take proper evidence to court to ensure that these guys that are alleged to have stolen this amount of money are brought to books.
Okay, and I guess you're both young looking in terms of age. I won't ask you how old you are, but aren't you worried that at some point we thought the younger generation would be the one who would help us out of, getting out of this corruption cycle? But that doesn't seem to be happening. I remember a survey that was done not too long ago where young people were asked, is it more important to be rich or how you get your money? And for many of them, it was more important to have the money. It didn't matter how you got it. Karen, your thoughts on this? Because it looks like the generation we thought would help us out may not be the hope that we had.
Do you remember the KCB...
or the tunnel?
Yeah.
Yes.
You remember the father to the sons, the young men, coming up and saying, my sons were inspired by the fact that people steal money, but then they're never taken to jail. They get away with it. So, and in a big way, he was right. So, we have young people who are supposed to be the hope, and they're actually the hope. But you go to, let's say, learning institutions or institutions of higher learning, universities, colleges, and you also see how, for instance, elections happen. There's so much corruption in that. So, you cannot say that. Just being young.
Are we in a catch-22 where the youth are looking at those ahead of them and seeing what they're doing and copying that, but not being able to get out of it?
Exactly, and we are confusing between having money, because then leadership in a sense is being equated to having money, because when you have money, you have more influence. When you have influence, you then make decisions and people follow you. But then that is actually not necessarily leadership. Proper leadership values is about influence, and we have bad role models in society and we have good role models. So the many that are sung about and profiled by the media are the bad role models, and it's all about money, fame,
so it's our fault now as the media.
Exactly. But then I think there are people out there who are doing right, living right, making their money the right way, working hard, and inculcating proper values in their children and young people in their institutions. And I think we need to identify those people and celebrate them. And partly, what we do at Emerging Leaders Foundation is we identify some of these young people who want to make a change in society, be it in colleges, universities, or community engagement initiatives, find them, hone their skills, build their capacities, encourage them and to just be leaders of integrity. And we bring to them men and women in society who are living and working on integrity and are leaders who are living by certain values. To just tell them that, you know what, it appears to be difficult, but it's possible to have integrity and still make it in life.
Your word of advice, Elliot, to young emerging leaders who may be out there and possibly are looking at the wrong role models?
I believe as young leaders out there, we need to actually change the narrative. And it's possible to change that narrative if we choose to work hard and not expect to live that life, flamboyant life without working hard enough. And therefore, it's possible to actually make it if you actually work hard. But also, on the catch-22 that you talked about, I think our society needs to change how we bring out, how we describe and define we define making it in life. And so
what success is, definition of success.
Yes, so that definition needs to be redefined, and we need to change it, because success is not about the flamboyant, colorful life. Success is more than that. Success is giving back to the society. Success is more than money itself. And so we need to redefine that, and maybe even as parents bring up their children, we need to ensure that the children are not introduced to corruption at a young age, whereby you tell your child that I will get you this if you are able to do this for me. And so that's the genesis of corruption. If we are able to actually tell our children that you can actually, for example, as a child, as my son, I'm actually going to buy you a bicycle if, no, not because of if, but I'll buy you as a gift.
As a gift.
You don't have to perform better or to do anything, but I'll give it to you as a gift. And tell them that actually you do not have to be influenced to actually change or to work hard.
To work hard.
Yes.
All right. And well, I think it's also just creating the values in them and understanding why they're important as opposed to trying to bribe them to have those values. But let's move on because of time. And there's also a story here on the front page of The Nation. Ruto, the isolated man in a push for referendum. So, Karen, I don't know if you feel like Kenya is ready for a referendum. Of course, politically speaking, there has been a lot of pushing and shoving. We do know that the deputy president currently is one who is not for a referendum. He says, let's talk development, let's finish the mandate and the agenda that Jubilee has in store. But there are those who are saying that we have amendments to make given the protracted elections that we had and the cycle that we seem to have always every 5 years.
You know, it is really sad, but we keep focusing on symptoms and not on the real foundational issues. We keep changing the constitution year in, year out. Different African countries and leaders also do the same, change the constitution. But then that is not the main issue. Because then you change the constitution and then you hope, you know, there's going to be rule of law, respect of the constitution, implementation of the same. But then it's the same politicians who at some point are saying, no, this is what we need to change the constitution to with their own interests at heart. Then come the following year, they go like, no, this is not working because it's not serving my interests. So if we keep changing constitutions and laws and all that because it is serving my interest or not,
what did you say are the root cause of where we are today? Because you're saying we're treating the symptoms rather than the cause. What do you think is the cause?
Impunity. Impunity and just lack of proper values to live by, because you have individuals taking up leadership roles, whether in government, in judiciary, executive, or whatever it is, but then they're not living by that. And you have institutions that are there, but then you have individuals managing those institutions. So if they do not make the right decisions, the right choices, that impacts on the people. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And there's impunity.
All right. Eliud, as we wind up very briefly, what are your thoughts on that? Do we need, is it time for a referendum? We certainly have problems in Kenya that we need solved.
We have problems that need to be solved, but a referendum is not the way out of this. One, we need to remember that having a referendum in Kenya is a very expensive affair. I do not think we have enough to actually... We were complaining about our debt the other day. We do not have enough money to actually go into a referendum and to actually spend right now. And this whole conversation about a referendum is a very selfish idea, an agenda that is actually being pushed by our leaders because they want to secure a place in, come 2022. And therefore, it is not a good idea. And I wish we could have more leaders come in support of the deputy president and say no to that. Yeah, not
all
to
right,
referendum.
and well, that's basically what time allows us to look at this morning. Thank you very much, Karen Macaulay and Eliud Goge, for joining us this morning on the Newspaper Review. We're going to take a short break, but before we take that break, a quick reminder of our question today on disaster management. And that's going to be what we'll be talking about between 7 and 8 a.m. on how prepared we are as a country and what happens to the disaster management fund that has actually been put there in place for that. But just to look at some of your answers to the question this morning, would you know what to do in case of a disaster? We do have Korir who says, I think the government should educate more on disaster management. I'm not sure if it's education that is required, or it's more money that is required, or it's also self-awareness. For now, we're going to take that break, but do stay with us right here on Morning Express. When we come back, we've got more